Greetings all. In this tutorial we'll be talking about Sharpie marker and color pencil as it applies to your drawing. You'll have a thick and thin Sharpie, so when you want to apply it over your sketch, make sure you have those ready, and you want to have an eraser too. Well, let's test out the markers. It's always a good idea. What happens with the different pressures with the pen, if you go slow or fast, you'll see that you can create different thicknesses of line. You can freehand any type of mark you want with the Sharpie. Just have a nice fluid motion. Don't try to go too slow because it could absorb into the paper a little too much. So I'm just going to outline this right here. But if I also find that I want to use a ruler because there's a lot of straight lines, a ruler is great to use for, again, straight lines. But curves and things of that nature, you're going to want to do by hand for sure. So I'm using a thicker Sharpie here called a fine Sharpie. It's good to protect the back of your drawing with a piece of scrap paper. So if there is any bleed through, it's only going on the scrap paper, not on the paper underneath that you might want to use. Make sure to check your work. I thought I was done, but I missed a couple parts in my original sketch. So prior to kind of moving to the color stage, always good to double check your work and see if you need to ink anything else. Always good to erase your sketch after you're done doing your major inking. I'm going to use my thinner marker here to fill some smaller spaces. It's always good to use the right type of marker for the right type of space. I'm switching to the thicker marker now for larger spaces. It just covers quicker. Sometimes I outline the shape first that I want to fill in, and then I fill in, so I get a bigger border to kind of make less mistakes against. So I'm just going to fill the areas I really want to. You're going to notice I'm filling these halfway. I'm going to do a special effect with hatching in a second. This is just something I want to do. So I'm filling in that halfway, and I take my thinner marker, and I'm going to do these strong, parallel, straight lines that go from closer together to further apart. I really like the effect of this in terms of how the lighting appears from it. It looks a little more 3D, how light gradates from dark to light. Next, we're going to be going on to color pencil. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we have our sharpener out in our color pencil box, and make sure we have always have a sharp pencil. Dull color pencils don't do very well. I'm picking out 3 colors that I believe I'm going to use in this design, and I'm going to start practicing with them to see if I like the color scheme and how the colors work together. So here's some tips on color pencil essentials, and I'm going to zoom in here in a second, but it's good to make a nice little grid so you can practice color pencil and the colors you anticipate using. So first thing is, you want to have a light coat of any color you use first. You don't want to go in heavy. So if you notice here, I'm doing a very pale version of that red. I'm going to do a very pale version of this turquoise. And the same thing with this yellow. So how do I do that? Light pressure with the pencil, but even pressure. Next, I'm going to apply intensity. I'm going to use a lot more pressure now with my red, and as I move up this square, I'm going to release pressure from the pencil as I fade it up, and then I'm going to just let it blend back into that light red. This right here will help teach you the sensitivity on how to fade color from a more intense version of itself to a lighter version. I'm going to apply another coat. Again, I'm not pushing hard. You should notice that I'm not really pushing hard with the pen. I'm just adding a layer after layer of color. I'm going to do the same thing with the turquoise here. And this is normal speed. I don't have it zoomed up right now. I'm going to zoom a little bit more in terms of speed in the drawing in a second. But I want you to get the feel for how I'm applying pressure. I'm going from one corner and fading it out like I did with the red, but I'm also applying it from all the outer edges of this square, because I'm going to make it so the center of this square has a lighter version of the turquoise color, and the outer perimeter has more intense versions. This again is a good way to train yourself to understand how to apply different pressures with the pencil. The yellow, I'm going to do the same thing with the red, but I'm going to do all the outer borders. so the center is lighter. I'm going to kind of clean up the red there. I'm going to actually now add yellow into the reds all throughout it, and you're going to see it's going to look like a sunset, fading from like warm orange yellows back to reds. That's what happens when you add two colors together. You can create some great fades. I'm going to take this baby blue, work that into the outer edges of the turquoise blends I put in there to alter the color. And this one, now it's going to take the red and I'm going to use that, and you're going to see it's going to turn into orange, because hopefully you know that when you mix red and yellow you create oranges, and this is going to create a warm kind of sun-like glow. And again, this is all about learning to practice. I'm going to put a whole coat of yellow in there, and you're going to see how that changes the color group. I'm actually going to use the yellow in the center here, and you're going to notice it's going to get very green, because when yellow and blue mix you get green. And of course, I don't show it in this video, but when red and blue mix, you get purple. How about stripes? I'm going to do some quick faded stripes. Again, that teaches you some control on how to quickly change from one intensity to another. I'm going to apply yellow in the reds just to give it a little orange, just to see how colors mix. So it's fun to see how colors mix in color pencil, because you can work with them quickly. Now here's a mistake a lot of people make. They want to do a fade, but what they do is they push really hard at first, and then they just release all the pressure. So I just showed you that, but you could always come back in and soften that transition. So if you feel like you jumped from really intense to really light too quickly, you can come back in and heal that. A good way to practice that is take a pencil and try creating about 5 to 6 different intensities in separate bars. That'll teach you what the colors can do. Now we're going to apply the technique to my design I did of my initials. I'm going to add a light coat of red on this. And you should have some planning on what you want to do with colors on objects, but you could also kind of, as you go, alter things that as you see fit. So I put these base colors here. I thought, okay, let me add a little yellow into the red. Oh, I like that fade. And now I'm going to add a little red into the yellow here. You can notice that they're going to have a very similar result on each one. Even though I applied red first and yellow second on one and the opposite on the other, it works. I apply a little yellow there to enhance the colors there, and I get this greenish tinge. I'm going to add a light coat all over my M and P there of the turquoise, because I don't know how intense I want to go with it now. So since I don't, I'm going to add just a light coat. And when you're adding color in an area, in a large area like this, where you're going to have to kind of add it here, add it there, and kind of combine these big color groups together, you don't want to color like this, where you color in bars of color. That's going to show like edges of the coloring. And so what I'm doing is, when I add a little bit here and there, I then color throughout the whole piece so they all feel unified. And I'll never run into that issue. If I have something that's curved like the P, I want to color with the curve, not in just in one direction, to really enhance the movement in the piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to like test out this deeper red, and what if I put that against the turquoise? Does it look good? I like how it looks. It's a cool versus warm effect, where you use a warm color like a red against a cool color like that turquoise, and they help each other pop, and that's called contrast. I'm actually going to take some yellow now and kind of embolden it in the turquoise to add a little extra warmth into that as well. Well, there you go. That's a good exercise to do. Here's some tips to remember. Definitely practice this color pencil work, because it's really going to make a difference in the end. Good luck, everybody.